The red-browed Amazon parrot, Amazona rhodocorytha, is the most endangered Amazon parrot in South America. It's one of the most endangered Amazon parrots in the world, in the genus Amazona, which comprises 26 different species from the New World, Caribbean, South America. The red-browed Amazon parrot is what I call a conflict species. It's a very iconic flagship species for Brazil's biodiversity, but it's also a conflict species, and if you look at its history and its conservation importance today, it tells a story about how the species came to be in such a desperate state and what the role of conservation is in trying to save it. At one time, the red-browed Amazon parrot was a very common species that was well distributed across the coastal Atlantic forest, which is the east coast of Brazil, central and southeast Brazil. And large flocks were found, thousands and thousands of birds, maybe as recently as a century ago. But you have to appreciate that the Atlantic forest of Brazil is one of the most decimated, highly impacted areas of our planet. It's also one of the most biologically diverse areas of our planet, but it's lost over 98% of its forest cover. It has suffered tremendously at the hands of man, and not just the forest, but all of the forest inhabitants, including primates and birds and insects and all of the biodiversity that we now appreciate is just so vital to the life-sustaining forces of this planet. The red-browed Amazon parrot is a conflict species in this region, not only because it has lost so much of its habitat, but also because it has been the focus of trade. It's been the focus of wildlife trade. It's been consumed locally because of its incredible mimicking ability, its ability to talk, its beautiful appearance, and the fact that there have been a long culture of keeping parrots as pets, and this bird as a companion bird was a very popularized pet. So you fast forward through all of the tensions and all of the impacts that can assault a tropical species. And what you see is that in addition to habitat loss and habitat fragmentation, the expansion of agriculture, the expansion of human settlements, the hunting of birds for food, the collecting of birds for the pet trade, and the export of birds for the pet trade, these take an enormous cumulative toll, not only on populations, but on the sustainability of whatever's left in the wild. And this sort of assault has been going on in Brazil for many, many, many years. In fact, so much so that as recently as 30 years ago, when one of the more popular treatises on endangered parrots first came out, which was called Endangered Parrots, it featured our friend right here on the cover, the red-browed parrot right on the cover. And Rosemary Lowe, who became known as a very popular writer of not only avicultural books and magazines, but what I would say popularized articles about parrots and parrot conservation, wrote in this book 30 years ago that were there as many as 12 pairs in captivity, there would be at least some spark of hope for the future of the red-browed Amazon. Instead, there is none. And that really epitomized the understanding of the species at that time, which is that the bottom had fallen out. The habitat was decimated. These birds had never been cultured in captivity. There's just a handful scattered around, and we were looking at the end of the red-browed Amazon, just as we've looked at the end of so many other conflict species, species that have been consumed for trade or from wildlife hunting, or because they just simply have no more habitat in which to survive. 30 years later, we're seeing a very different picture for this species. And what this film documents and what this story really tells is what is possible with a very limited, finite resource and a number of people that are willing to do outrageous things over a very long period of time to bring back the viability, the functionality, and really the true ecology of a species to enable it to thrive again.